Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Rush with the AOPA products team, and we want to thank everyone for joining us again tonight for our third iFlight Planner for AOPA live stream. We certainly hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving holiday and that you're looking forward to the rest of the holiday season here in just a few weeks. It's hard to believe it's already in December, but I'm sure there's a lot of us, like myself, who are ready to say goodbye to 2020. So, looking forward to that. So joining me tonight from iFlightplanner are Andy Matthews, who's a co-founder and director of business development, and John Burnside, also a co-founder and a director of technology. Welcome again, Andy and John.
Thanks, Eric. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you guys always. So, I was looking back and to see when we did our first live stream, and it seems longer, but it was just 6 months ago, and that means we're really averaging a new iFlight Planner for AOPA release and a corresponding live stream about every 2 months. And I know that both of you have been really, really pretty busy over the past couple months getting this new version ready to release. And just like the previous two releases, the majority, if not all, of the new features are the direct result of member feedback and member requests. And we also receive a lot of great feedback on these live streams. A member have commented to us, in the chat and also afterwards, to our tech support, a couple days after. They really appreciate the live streams, the work that goes into these, and, be able to see the new features that we're releasing firsthand so they can hit the ground running and use those on their next flight plans. And we want to just remind everybody out there watching, if you're not already subscribed to the AOPA YouTube channel, AOPA Live YouTube channel, please do that. It's the easiest way to find out whenever there's new information. If you hit the bell icon next to the subscribe button, that will notify you in the YouTube app whenever we release new content, so you can be sure to not miss anything that we're putting out there. So let's get started. John, I want to start with you this time. Out of the numerous new features that are included in this latest version, there's probably two that really stand out the most. And these are the ones that receive the most requests from members and feedback of people asking for. So before we get into all the demos and start to walk through all the features, give us a little preview of what those probably two standout features are in this release.
Sure. Thanks, Eric. Since day one of iFlightplanner, Andy's and my commitment has always been to listen to member feedback and really allow that to help shape and drive our development priorities. So when we left the last live stream a few months ago, we said the two things that were really out there that had received the most interest were, number one is reformatting some of our flight documents, and most especially the navigation log, into a Kneeboard format, so that pilots in the cockpit can use that in a format that they're very used to, very comfortable with. We know that was a feature in the previous AOPA flight planner as well. So that was number one. And then the second that has been very highly requested over the last number of months since we started with AOPA, and even before that, is Android integration. And so those are the two features that we're going to look at tonight. We're excited to announce both of those, and looking forward to demoing how those will work tonight.
Yeah, I know we're looking forward to that. Andy, go back over to you. One of the biggest requests we got from members, even after the initial release, was, where's the AOPA nav log? A lot of different flight planners have a nav log that can be printed out or viewed to go in the cockpit. And for the longest time, and I've worked at AOPA over 10 years, and we have constantly received feedback on our nav log, and it was something that had improved over many, many years, but we've had that same format for a long time. It was one of the most liked features of our older flight planner, and that's another big announcement here with the format of the AOPA navlog and iFlight planners. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like everybody said at the outset, a lot of feedback. A lot of history has gone into the AOPA Kneeboard format of the navlog, and we're really excited to be able to reveal that. It was announced and available yesterday, but obviously, as John said, one of the key components of this release and what we want to share with you. And so we recognize that there's a lot of pilots that are used to the AOPA format and Kneeboard format, especially. Also, too, our members, the iFlight Planner members, even before we partnered with AOPA, have come used to our Kneeboard format, or rather our navlog format. And so what we did was decided to support both. So as we jump into the kind of the demo here, and everybody's become familiar with this screen here, that's the home page, right? So we've got your My Account homepage, and one thing that we always like to really reinforce are the settings that are available to each member. So using that My Account menu up in the upper right, My Settings, and there's a lot of settings here that I'm sure members have spent some time customizing their AOPA flight planning experience. But what we're going to focus on here tonight is this navlog style. So you can see we've got the iFlightplanner Classic navlog, and we also have the two AOPA versions, both in a full page as well as a Kneeboard format. And so that we could help you and help pilots find which format is best for them, there's some samples here. So you just click on the samples and you can see here's the full page Classic AOPA, iFlightplanner navigation log. There's that same version of it in a Kneeboard. You can see how it'll print out, and you've got the opportunity to fold the page or cut the page, whatever is best for you in your cockpit experience. But then, as we released yesterday, we've got the AOPA versions. So here's the full page AOPA version. This will look familiar to a lot of you out there. We'll scroll down here so you can see. And really, there's also a lot of new information here. So we took components of this navigation log that we felt were really helpful and incorporated them into the iFlightplanner Classic versions. But then also, too, where they all come together is in the AOPA Kneeboard format. So you can see there as those come up on the screen. So some samples here from Frederick to Kilo, Fox, Lima, Oscar there. A lot of really good information, and like we said, we're always looking for feedback on how best to serve the AOPA membership through iFlightplanner for AOPA, and all the features and enhancements that we're able to bring to the table. So really, once you've been able to navigate through each of those different samples, we want you to pick the one that's going to be best for you. So using one of those radio buttons that's available to you, we'll go grab the AOPA Kneeboard format. We'll scroll down here to the bottom and go ahead and save that setting. And so now when we hop in and actually plan a new flight using that familiar Plan a New Flight button, all of the information that you're used to seeing in the traditional iFlightplanner Classic navlog will all now be presented in the AOPA format. The things that was also part of this release that we'd like to share is a bit of an enhancement to AirMets and SIGMETs. So I'm going to go ahead and use this Map Layers menu. I'm going to turn off all the special use airspace, but then turn on some convective AirMets and SIGMETs. You can see there's a few down here in the Gulf, so I'm going to go zoom down here. And what we did there was enhance the color coding so it's a bit more intuitive. You know, when you plan a route with iFlightplanner and you see those METARs and TAFs color-coded green, yellow, red, pink up through the flight conditions, we did a similar color coding function to the AirMets and the SIGMETs. So when we click on the map, I'm going to click this Airspace at Location button, and now you're going to see a vertical profile of all the airspace there. And you can see now, as I scroll down, you can see the color coding has been enhanced from convective SIGMETs being the most bold red, the outlook being yellow, so a bit of a heads up, and then the more moderate ones are an orange. So it models that color coding.
The main point here, Andy, just to mention, is the separation of the convective outlooks versus the convective sigmets, and that was one of key points. And again, that was a member feedback driven item. We wanted to make sure that those convective sigmets, which are more immediate versus the outlook, are really highlighted in red and made more visible.
That's a great addition. We do similar things with that color coding and some of the other AOPA member products, like our weather products and things like that, where we use an orange and a red color coding to call attention to those things that are really dangerous and those things that you should not be overlooking. So we're really happy to see that come in iFlightplanner, because it's easy to get lost in the noise sometimes of all the different information that's presented on these charts, and to have those things stand out in different color codes really helps identify those and call your attention to say, hey, probably should investigate this just a little bit more. So great deal there. That's an outstanding addition. So Andy, some of the other features here we want to sort of talk about too is there's been some enhancements to the multi-leg trip planning, and that is a feature that has been long requested in our old legacy flight planner that AOPA had, that simply we just couldn't provide, just because the charting engine and the routing engine was never designed for a multi-leg route. But iFlightplanner can certainly handle that. So walk us through those a couple changes.
Yeah, certainly, Eric, and to keep in mind too that this is one of the premium features that we make available to the AOPA members at a discount. So the multi-leg trip planning is one of those premium features. But with that said, let's plan a trip, and I'm going to purposefully plan a trip that's a bit longer than the range of this demo 172 that we have here in the account. So we're going to go and plan a flight from Frederick up to Oshkosh. And I think, Eric, you had mentioned when we were talking earlier this week about the different routing options that are available to us. Members will notice here right in the center of the page, it was defaulted to direct for this route, but there's a number of different routing options that are available to the members to plan their route. So you can see there's direct, there's low altitude airways, high altitude airways, recent ATC routes. There'll be a number of different options there based on the membership level that you have. But one of them that's always included is low altitude airways. So we'll go ahead and select that one. And so that I can demonstrate a feature a little bit down the line here, I'm gonna grab a departure date for tomorrow morning. You can see we're on Eastern Standard Time, and I'm gonna grab that for 8 o'clock and go ahead and plan this flight. One of the first things that you'll see when this route comes up, we knew it, that the aircraft fuel capacity is not enough for us to complete this route. So one of the things that we're going to want to do is insert a fuel stop, and that's where that multi-leg flight planning comes in. I'll zoom in here a little bit to the Chicagoland area, and two things you'll notice. You'll see that orange line based on the aircraft profile. That's where we're going to start burning our reserve fuel, and that red line that you see is where the flight planning engine is predicting that you'll go zero fuel. So for my comfort level, I want to find a spot before I start burning that reserve fuel. I'm going to click hide up here in the upper right to get rid of that notification. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click kind of in the area along the route. You get the location pop-up menu that it's a ton of versatility and a lot of functionality in here. But the one that we're most interested in here right now is the ability to view nearby retail fuel prices. So I'm going to go ahead and click that fuel tank icon here, Eric. And what it's going to do, it's about a 75 nautical mile radius, and it's going to give us the fuel prices in that area. And again, going back to the color coding, color coded green, orange, and red, you can see that one fuel price there, $3.68 is the cheapest in the area. You can see that's Warsaw Municipal. The orange prices are kind of in that next most expensive half of the prices, and then the very most expensive prices according to that area are highlighted in red. When we click on the fuel price, that's how I got this airport fuel menu show up in the upper right-hand corner. The upper rightmost option is insert trip stop here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And you can see we're going to get a notification that says it's adding that that trip. I'll wait for the stream to catch up here a little bit. But now you can see there's a route from Frederick to Warsaw. And then if you look closely, you'll see a gray line that's going from Warsaw direct up to Oshkosh.
Very nice.
And this just to reinforce here why this works this way, or part of why it works this way, is when we obtain weather briefs or file flight plans with the FAA, those are typically based on a takeoff and a landing. So I know some users at times have asked us, hey, can I just rubber band my route to my fuel stop location? And you certainly could plan it that way, but we encourage you to do it this way with the multi-leg planning, so that each leg is treated on its own. And if you file the flight plan, that accurately represents what you're doing, as well as the performance calculations, taking into account climb and descent, will more accurately calculate your fuel burn rather than just treating an actual fuel stop as just a waypoint within a route.
Mm-hmm. And one question on the color coding, and we didn't really talk about this, so I'm going to throw you on the spot just a little bit, John.
Sure.
I assume you did it sort of the similar the way we did it with the other flight planner we had at AOPA, is that the color assignments are relative to the neighboring fuel prices inside of that circle, inside of that thing. They're not reference anything outside of that. So just so you see a green color doesn't mean that it's the cheapest in the country. It's probably the cheapest or the least expensive within that influence within that circle. Is that kind of how that works?
That's correct, yes. And actually the map layers menu where we originally toggled the airmets and sigmets that Andy showed earlier, those actually have settings where you can turn on fuel prices across the whole country. Now, if you did that, you would see prices relative to each other across the entire country. But when you're looking within just that radius around the area that you know you want to stop, we want to give you a ranking within that radius. So you're correct that is localized in terms of how those prices are ranked there. And we always give you one green one that shows you what the absolute best price is.
Good. Okay. That's why I thought I was hoping, just because it doesn't make sense to sometimes fly 100 miles off your route to save 10 cents a gallon on fuel. So often if we're on a long cross country, we're looking for that, what's convenient, what's real quick to get to that makes sense, logical sense without burning more fuel to save a little money. So great. Okay. Definitely. Good to hear. So Andy, another one while you're in that particular route there, I think might be a good time to talk about removing a waypoint. And this is sort of jumping ahead to some of the frequently asked questions we get at our Pilot Information Center. And I was happened to be talking to a couple of our tech support reps earlier in this week, and I was asking them, hey, what are some of the questions that you hear over and over again, from members as they call in? And that was one of them, as far as, hey, I just planned this, but I don't necessarily need this waypoint, or, it was included along with an airway, but I don't need this waypoint in there. Can you show maybe on that route how the members can remove a waypoint from a route that was planned?
Yeah, certainly. So we'll bring the map back up here, and really, if there's a waypoint that's along your route, and you can see here, from the Fort Wayne VOR to Warsaw, this extra reporting point that's in here is probably not worth flying through. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on it. We're going to get the pop-up menu that comes up, and this bright red box right here, remove from route, is going to allow you to do that. So you'll see that segment was removed, but we also got that flight plan modified flag come in from the left to let us know that, hey, we need to rerun the flight plan just because the route has changed. So we're going to go ahead and do that. It's going to replan that route, and now we've got that reporting point out of the route.
And Andy,
and that's an important step there. Sorry, John. That's an important step that I think some members have overlooked is that, that flight modified button is they may not think to do that, or they wonder why they can't do anything else until they do that. And that's a really important part because you just modified the route, and that can change a lot of different things. It can change fuel burn, or usage. It can change, winds and things like that are all calculated in the nav log. So that is an important piece to anytime you make a change to the route, update it, let the flight planning engine recalculate everything. So you're starting with a known, good flight plan.
Yeah, exactly. And John, it sounded like you were going to hop in there.
Yeah, no, a couple points too. I just want to kind of reiterate and kind of show people how all this works together. So if you pull the map screen back up, and so when you're making these changes, you're interacting with the map itself, which we always want to do because it's color coded and user friendly for point and click. But there are actually changes happening up in the planner and nav log, which are available at the top middle of the screen. So the planner is where we initially started, and you can see that even though we originally planned this route with low altitude airways, once we made that modification, it actually turns it into a custom route, which you can use at any time to manually type in a route if you know what it is. But by deleting that waypoint, it figured out what the new routing was, which is a custom route. It's no longer an auto-generated low altitude airways since we took out a waypoint. And now you can see that route there. So you could manually also make further changes here. So Eric, kind of to the question of people of how do I delete a waypoint, you can do it interactively on the map. You can also do it directly within the box there if you knew exactly what you wanted to delete out. So you can make those changes there. And then what's happening is if you click and open the nav log at the top middle of the screen there, is that your nav log here is also being updated. So when we clicked the orange button that came up on the map that told us the flight plan was modified, by clicking on that, we're actually generating a whole new navigation log here. As Eric, you alluded to, that your fuel burn had changed, your time had changed, etc. So this is obviously, and this is another reason I wanted to bring this up, is to show this is the AOPA format that we chose here. On the screen, we don't show it in Kneeboard, but there is an easy way to print the nav log from here, which is a question we get from time to time, and that's just above the nav log to the left as you click the printer icon. So if you're looking to just print the nav log for this route, you can easily do so, and here's where you'll see the Kneeboard format that is now available to you.
Excellent. So we've got a route plan, Andy. So what about now filing that? I know there was some change to that as far as departure time and filing the flight plan.
Yeah, perfect segue, Eric. I'm gonna navigate over here using the tabs in the upper right to the file. So we're looking at this this route here from Frederick to Oshkosh. If I wanted to quickly change to Warsaw, and now from Warsaw to Oshkosh, I can go ahead and load that flight as well. You can see because we hadn't done any planning on that, it's just defaulted to direct down here in the flight route box. But I'm going to go ahead and say we've got a couple of people on board, and the green button down at the bottom center is the file flight plan. So I'm going to go ahead and file this flight plan. We get the notification that it has been filed. You can see the green notification here that it's also been filed. But say, for instance, we knew that we were going to have an extra, 15 or so minutes on the ground in Warsaw. So we're going to update this to 45-minute layover. We're getting the notification here that we need to kind of update that route. So I'm going to click the plan flight, and what happened there, that flight plan status changed from filed to amendment required. And you can see by hovering on it or clicking on it what the reasons for that flight plan amendment was. So this is what's changed, and because we changed the departure time, it's now 15 minutes later than what we were before. I'm going to go ahead and click amend. It's going to go ahead and amend that flight plan, and you can see now that it's filed in green and really good to go.
Andy, another good point right here is you would see the same in the trip summary. So since we are working with a multi-leg trip, but even if you're working with a single leg trip, if we can go back to the map real quick, and we had the trip summary open from the top left up there, you can see both legs. You can see we haven't yet filed leg 1. We have filed leg 2. Had the amend required still been sitting out there, you would see that right here under the filed column as well. You also, as part of our premium package, have ability to plan all or file all flights or cancel all flight plans at the lower left there. So that's an easy way to do all your activities for the entire trip at once also.
Very nice, guys.
Yeah, really, really good there. So obviously we're gonna fly this one tomorrow. So I'm just gonna go ahead and click cancel the flight plan here. That flight plan's been canceled, so we're good to go there. But then really, as we talked about, a lot of work has been done on those navigation logs and even the trip documents. So using the Docs tab in the upper right-hand corner, you've got the green trip documents button. I'm gonna pull this up. I'll kind of resize it a little bit so we can make sure that we've got it all here on the screen. And now what you're going to see is a single page trip summary. So you can see leg 1 from Frederick to Warsaw, leg 2 Warsaw to Oshkosh. But each individual leg now has its own trip sheet, if you will. So if we look at the Frederick to Warsaw sheet, here is that flight document in the AOPA Kneeboard format. So you can go ahead and print that and take it with. You've got the route if you wanted to print a segment of that. Continuing to scroll down, we've got the weight and balance calculation that was automatically calculated. You noticed I never touched the weight and balance tab, but when we generate this, it generates the weight and balance calculation for you. You've got your conditions and forecasts. You've got your NOTAMs also in Kneeboard format. The highlighted closed in red, and then as well as the services that are at your departure and your destination. So these check boxes allow you to print all or none of the flight documents, but there's just a lot of really good customization options here and what exactly you want to print for which leg, and you can see all those check boxes at the top that you've got options to customize this so it best suits your flying.
You can also you can set your default settings on the settings page that we were on earlier, and so that you don't have to change these every time that you go to print a flight. You can change them on a per flight or per trip basis if you're flying into an unknown airport or some other reason where you want to have additional sections that aren't part of your defaults, but we want to give you that ability to customize your documents so that what you typically need is printed by default, and then you can modify it on an as-needed basis. The one other note to make in that section 2, the flight documents, this is an area where, while we did bring in the new navlog formats, we also changed our documents a little bit to reduce paper and get the most important information up front. For those of you that have been using iFlightplanner for AOPA over the last 6 months, you might remember the cover page or the first page in the documents used to be a little different. It was really just METAR's task frequencies and a little chart snippet from the area. We received quite a bit of feedback that piece of paper wasn't that helpful, that the navlog was more important, and that's where we took the best of the AOPA flight planners previous navigation log with the frequencies at the top and bottom, an area for your hobs, tack, and fuel information, and combine that onto the first page of the flight documents to reduce the amount of paper that you have to print and take with you into the cockpit.
Yeah, it looks really good, John. It's certainly is a great backup for, even for people or pilots using EFB apps. This is an outstanding backup. I probably mentioned in one of the previous live streams, but I had on 2 different occasions flying, and I always flew with 2 iPads. I didn't have any charts or anything on board, and I would fly with 2 iPads, and it happened to be a hot summer day, and flying along, and both iPads thermally shut down. They went into protection to save themselves. And shut off. And now there's 2 other GPSs in that plane, but I'll tell you the anxiety that I started feeling. I'm like, what am I going to do without these iPads? It's almost like you forget, like, what are all these other round things on my panel? What are they for? But having that piece of paper there that has the essential frequencies, has the routing, has everything you need to go. There's that really nice fallback that you don't have to worry about, glare. You don't have to worry about how hot or cold it is. All that goes away. So that, if you're using an EFB or paperless, maybe rethink that. Maybe keep that trip pack. Just print that out. You have all the essential stuff you're going to need if you ever get into that situation. And believe me, I was in it twice. It happens probably more often than you think. So
even at least printing just the first page with the nav log and the frequencies to have that with you, I think that's always a great backup to have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, so where are we at? I think we've got if I've been following along here, we've got a flight plan filed or in the process of filing. We've got everything ready. Our trip documents are all printed out now. It's just about time to head out to the airport. So we may want to think about syncing this up. And this is where I think we get into one of the other big standout features with this release. And this will be of most interest to some of the Android EFB users with iFly GPS. We were asked this a lot, so I'm glad to see that this finally happened. So walk us through that and how that works with iFly GPS.
Sure. First and foremost, I just want to go back to the map one final time because I know a question, Eric, you mentioned that the PIC team gets is how to close out of the flight planner. So I just want to show that to users again. So if we can go back to the map screen, let's toggle that, because what we have done now, we've planned 2 legs that we are prepared to fly. And in the upper right, and it's maybe just cut off on the screen just a little bit here, but just to the right of the log button over there, there's an X. And so if this is a new trip that we've planned, which this one is, and you click the X, it's going to prompt you and say, do you want to save this trip or discard it? So if you're just coming into the maps to look around, explore, look at some different places to go, and you didn't actually plan a flight, you can just discard it and it'll go away. But if it's a trip you're actually going to fly, then you'll want to save trip, and it'll come back in. It'll show up in your flights list now as well. So that's part one, that X on the top right of the flight planner. And the reason we set that up that way is we didn't want to put the main navigation on the website into the flight planner because we want to maximize the screen real estate you have for the maps and the other interactive features. So use that X on the top right to exit out of what we call our trip planner feature. So that's step one. So now that you have planned those flights, they are saved into your account. You now have the ability to sync those into devices for use in flight. In July, we announced our Bring Your Own EFB program. So while we offer iFlightplanner for iPad and iPhone, we know that a lot of pilots out there already had an EFB that they were very comfortable with, that they liked using, they already had a subscription for. And so we announced this program so that pilots had choices. We don't want them to feel like they're pigeonholed into one particular piece of technology. Obviously, we're going to continue developing our products and trying to make them the best they can be, but we're always interested in working with other partners. So along with that, obviously, it was there was a significant amount of people out there that were interested in having an Android option. And most especially, iFly GPS is a very popular product. And so in July, when we announced our Bring Your Own EFB program, and that through our apps is integrated through a number of iOS flight planning options and EFBs, we reached out to the Adventure Pilot team and who makes iFly GPS. They were very enthusiastic about integrating. So since our last live stream, we worked with them to integrate iFlightplanner and iFly GPS so that those flights that we've now planned can be synced into iFly GPS, and iFly GPS works on multiple platforms. So they have an iOS app, a Windows tablet app, an Android app, as well as individual devices that you can use. So all of those run off the same software. So this feature that they've now released is available to sync up with iFlightplanner and pull those flight plans down. So since Android is a platform that we don't have our own app for, and we wanted to make sure that people have the chance to try this out, upon request also from iFly GPS was, hey, let's make this available. So for the next, I think through May 1st, this feature will be available to everybody. At that point, it'll transition then into our Bring Your Own EFB program, which will be available to iFlightplanner Core and Premium members. But up to that point, we want people to try this out and give us feedback, because there's beyond just the initial integration that we've done. There are options and opportunities for us to continue working with the iFly GPS team to expand our integration and continue strengthening this integrated experience of flight planning for pilots to be able to choose a web-based flight planning utility that they like and they enjoy, as well as their EFB of choice.
Mm-hmm. And and one little anecdote as we're talking about the Bring Your Own EFB program, I happened to be on a call about a week or so ago with a member, and we were talking about iFlightplanner, and we're talking about a couple other things with flight planning, and he is one of those that was kind of like me, where he carries two iPads in his plane, and he actually not only carries two iPads, he keeps two different subscriptions to EFB apps. And some of those can get very pricey. He was not aware. I mean, he was aware of iFlightplanner for AOPA, but he was actually not aware that the core and premium versions of iFlightplanner, so the upgraded ones, that those included the iFlightplanner EFB, that runs offline. You don't need an internet connection to do that on your Apple device. So he was not aware of that. And when I told him, I said, well, as an AOPA member, you do get discount pricing as part of this upgrade. And when he saw what the pricing was, he was more than delighted, because he was able to switch over to, I think he went with Core, and saved a substantial amount of money over. He was able to drop one of the other EFB apps that he was paying a lot of money for, and he still achieves the same result of having two independent EFB apps on two separate devices. And he had a little bit of a technology background, as you can probably see or figure out, and he's aware that so apps can have bugs and they can have issues. And if he's carrying the same EFB app on two different devices, if there's a particular bug in there, well, it's going to be present on both of those devices. So he's just one of these people that likes to cover his bases and wants as much backup as he can possibly have. And I certainly can appreciate that. I've been in those situations. So that is just something else to point out, that the Core and Premium do include the EFB installable app for that. So if you want to carry a secondary device, or maybe that's just your primary device, the pricing is certainly something to consider. It's certainly a very nice discount. So
yeah, and
back to the iFly.
And back to iFly. Like John was saying here, they've been great to work with, and who better than to show the integration and how one syncs flights from iFlightplanner for AOPA down to iFly than the iFly GPS team. And so actually it's posted on the iFly GPS YouTube channel. There's a quick tip that Walter, their president, produced, and I think Warren back in the studio has that queued up. So let's just take a couple of minutes here and watch that, so you can see from the iFly GPS side how the integration and how seamlessly this all works together.
In this quick tip, I'll demonstrate how version 11.1 of iFly GPS adds seamless integration with iFlightplanner. iFlightplanner is a web-based flight planning tool, free for all AOPA members, plus there are subscription-based upgrades that add additional capabilities. But to learn more about this tool, just visit iFlightplanner.com. For this demo, I'm assuming you already know about iFlightplanner, and you probably already have a bunch of saved flights that you want to bring into iFly GPS. Our integration with iFlightplanner is simple and intuitive. That's just how we do things here. Touch the Flight Plan button, More Options, then Sync with iFlightplanner. The first time you do this, enter your iFlightplanner credentials. So click Login, type your username, which is different than your email, by the way, then your password. This message tells me the accounts are now linked. If I touch the Sync Now button, iFly will query the iFlightplanner servers and pull over all the flight plans. I'll leave the Auto Sync button checked So going forward, anytime I run iFly, it will seamlessly and automatically check iFlightplanner for any changed or new flight plans. So I'm going to touch Sync now. iFly found 3 new plans, then copied them to my local device. Please note, the sync is one way. Changes you make in the plan in iFly will not move back to iFlightplanner. For now, that is. Now when I go to load a new plan, these are shown at the top of the list with an underscore prefix. I'll pick one of these plans and load it. As you can see, it's now super easy for any flight plan created in iFlightplanner to be loaded and flown in iFly GPS.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is so nice. I mean, and really the only thing that has to happen, on the iFlightplanner side is just remember to save the route. Everything else is then done, for you by the iFly GPS.
Yeah, and frankly, that's why we wanted to show the video that Walter created, because there is not a whole lot that we can really show, because so much of the technology and the work that John led and Brian on the iFly GPS team led to be able to make this integration work, as Walter said, so seamlessly and intuitively. And so one of the things that you noticed is the requirement to have your iFlightplanner credentials, which are different from your AOPA credentials. And so one of the ways that you can retrieve that is in your My Profile, and there's the user ID and password, and you can update a user ID and update a password that will then be available to log in to iFly GPS. So again,
Andy,
that's
show the video
available.
real quick, just how you got to that. Yeah, there you go. Great.
Yep. So again, to get there, use the My Account menu, My Profile, and then the user ID and password tab.
Got it.
Walter did allude to some more stuff coming. John, do you want to maybe kind of talk about a little bit what we're envisioning there?
Sure, I won't give away too many secrets here. I actually, first and foremost, just want to highlight the auto sync feature. So in that 2-minute clip we showed from Walter, he had you enter your iFlightplanner user ID and password. You only have to do that once. From there forward, the iFly GPS app will automatically check for updated flight plans. You can always manually prompt it to do so, but that process that he showed, you really just have to do once. So any flights that you then plan will automatically be there when you open up the app. So it really is seamless and easy to use. As far as going forward, we certainly have some opportunities to work on further integration. As we kind of opened tonight with the lead, is that a lot of that will be driven by member feedback. So we welcome you to use that integration in the coming months and let us know how you think we can continue to expand upon that. And we'll look forward to the next live stream where we'll share what we have found as opportunities internally too, in terms of working with Walter and the iFly GPS team.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So, do you want to field a few questions out of the chat here?
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got 15, 17 minutes or so before our 9 o'clock. So, definitely, Eric, if there's some that have come through in the chat, we'd be happy to address them and, if need be, show exactly how we get there.
Perfect. So, and I will tell everyone, I've actually been trying to reply to some of these while I've been off camera here, and for whatever reason, in 2 different browsers, it's not allowing me to reply to chats. So I'm not sure why, but just blame it on 2020, right? That's the basket we put all of our troubles into this year. So, yeah, so I'm not ignoring everyone. It's just not allowing me to reply for some reason. But we will pick a few out of here just to answer. One of them staying on the iFly GPS, and we probably just covered it. But the question is, so a person would need to have a core subscription at minimum in order to use the integration with iFly GPS. So, obviously there's that little thing of it being free up until May, but you just want to just go over that just, to make it clear of what they have to have and when it does switch over to the core.
Yeah, absolutely. That was, kind of a bit of a last minute December surprise, if you will. We wanted to, as John said, make this available so that we can get some more feedback and make that integration even stronger. So right now, all AOPA members, as part of their member benefit, will have the wireless sync capabilities from iFlightplanner for AOPA down to iFly GPS through April of 2021. At that point, we'll kind of incorporate all of the feedback. I'm sure the integration will be even stronger by then, and then we'll bring it back into the Bring Your Own EFB program, which will require at minimum the core membership. And Eric, as you mentioned, that's with the AOPA discount, it's less than $40 a year.
Yeah, that's hard to beat. I don't think there's any EFB, fully featured EFBs out there that are going to be, in that price range, especially that have a desktop companion app and has all the features that we have with iFlightplanner now. And staying on the Bring Your Own EFB topic, another question was, can you export your flight plan into ForeFlight?
Yes. So when we launched the Bring Your Own EFB program in July, and I don't know them all off the top of my head, I could probably rattle off most of them, but I think there's 7 or 8 apps. So as part of the Bring Your Own EFB program, with an iFlightplanner Core or higher membership, you download the flight, it would come into on an iPad or an iPhone, which is where obviously your ForeFlight would be. You would open up iFlightplanner for iPad or iPhone, and then there's just a one-tap sync from there that pushes the data over to ForeFlight. So that is included in that.
Excellent. So let's see here. I'm trying to see if I can go in some sort of order here. Talking about fuel, somebody want to know if there are fuel prices for Swift fuel. And I know that probably touches on something we've been talking about recently that we're not quite ready to talk about yet in public, but I know MoGas at least is there, but what about Swift fuels? Anything we can sort of tease with? Maybe?
Yeah, Eric, actually, we can, and without revealing too much of what's going on, I actually had a great conversation with the crew at Swift Fuels this week, and we are still working out the details and the logistics, but their UL94 product is continuing to grow and find itself on more airfields around the country, and we're gonna integrate that into our airport and services directory, so that just as you can go to the map and find 100 low lead and filter by full and self-serve, Jet A, MoGas, but we're also going to add their UL94 product to that database as well. So that will to be determined date of release, but like I said, we had a great conversation with them just this week and are looking forward to bringing them on board.
Good. And I know they have their own kind of map out there where you can find airports, that have it, but having it as part of a flight planning tool where you can now, add your fuel stop wherever there is Swift fuels, I think that's just going to go a long way, other than trying to bounce between 2 different, mapping applications and trying to find where you want to go. So that would be an excellent addition. And we'll cross our fingers that will happen. I'm sure it will. They're probably as eager as we are. So there was one other one here. Where does the weight and balance information come from? You talked about that in the trip docs there. So you want to talk a little bit about how weight and balance is calculated and what they need to do to get that set up?
Sure. So the weight and balance, first of all, the stock weight and balance profiles that are found in the aircraft. And Warren, if you want to hop over to the demo screen here, I'll be able to show a little bit of this. So from that aircraft menu in the top center, we go to My Aircraft. We've got a couple of demo aircraft in there. You can see we've been working with the demo 172. I'm going to click Edit. And within the aircraft profile details for iFlightplanner Premium members, there's a weight and balance tab. So you can customize this weight and balance profile to the absolute nth degree to fully customize it to your aircraft. Like I said, we use the stock weight and balance profile out of the FAA's type certificate data sheet. But you can see here's the CG envelopes that we're working with. Once these are saved and made available through the rest of the platform, when you plan a flight, when you're in the trip manager, or if you just wanted to do a one-off weight and balance calculation from the flights menu, you can go ahead and click weight and balance, and all of that information will be available to you to enter in manually. You can see here the ramp fuel, the taxi, and the fuel burn are empty. That's because we haven't planned a flight. Had we done this as part of the trip manager interface, all of that data would have been pre-populated. So you can either just click the calculate weight and balance button, or as we showed it earlier, it actually gets calculated automatically.
Got it. Okay. One other question here is, and this might be actually a feature request here as part of the iFly integration, is can aircraft information be synced to iFly?
Great question, and that's kind of underscores why we're excited about the first phase of this integration, but also looking for feedback about the next phases of integration. So the answer to the question right now is it is not synced. Just your flight plans are synced down, and then you would want to enter a matching aircraft profile on the iFly GPS side, so that when the flight plan is synced down, that it automatically picks that up based on tail number. So as long as the tail numbers match, it'll pick it up there. But certainly we will add that to our notes, and as we collect those over the coming months, to continue working with Walter, Brian, and the team at iFly GPS to strengthen the integration.
Excellent. Okay. One other question on the weight and balance just came in from Jerry. And I'm embarrassed that I don't know this. Is the weight and balance included in the AOPA, or is that core premium?
Eric, that's a iFlightplanner premium feature. So when we look at the progression of the membership levels, if you will, think about iFlightplanner for AOPA having those essential tools of route planning, certified weather brief, and filing the flight plan. Core adds those same pieces of functionality with the iOS integration of iFlightplanner for iPad and iFlightplanner for iPhone. iFlightplanner Premium adds the multi-leg trip planning, the weight and balance calculation, the unlimited logbook. There's probably a few other features that I'm missing here, but I can actually probably pull this up here. And Warren, if you hop back, you can see if you go to iflightplanner.aopa.org/AOPA, you get a really good breakdown of what each membership level gives you. And you can see here with your AOPA membership, iFlightplanner Core is $39.99 a year. iFlightplanner Premium is only $79.99 a year. So you can see there, you've got multi-leg trip planning, multiple performance profiles per aircraft. You get access to the recently cleared ATC routes, weight and balance, the logbook, custom range rings. There's exporting to Garmin products and the GPX format, which I know a lot of the experimental aircraft use as well. So there's just a lot of additional features that are available in those additional ones. But yes, the weight and balance is part of iFlightplanner Premium.
Got it. Okay, thanks for clarifying that. And that, and those are things that with the legacy flight planner we had that I think really are the difference between what iFlightplanner is with the Core and Premium, is that you're not only getting just a desktop or an online only flight planner. That's all that we had with the Jepson powered one. It was just for your desktop computer. It did not work on mobile devices at all, even if you had an internet connection, or it worked poorly at best. So you're really getting not only this really nice desktop experience, but you're getting an app that you can install on your device that works offline. So you're able to store an entire database, procedures, everything on that device, and that's really why there's a little bit difference of cost there. Is there's certainly a lot more development things that go into maintaining, different apps and different features that those have. So and at the discounted price with for AOPA members, compared to some of the other, not that there's there's not great EFB apps out there, but at this price level, it's going to be hard to find anything that is equally as comparable. So. One other
note
thing
too on the weight and balance calculation. That is one of the more, can be one of the more complex setup pieces of your aircraft profile. Once you do it once and it's in place, unless you make a modification to your aircraft, you won't have to change it again. But certainly, if you go to use that and you're having trouble getting it tuned just right, let us know. Just reach out to us. We actually I just earlier today had a call with a gentleman, and we tuned his up and got it working spot on in terms of showing him his weight and balance. So certainly don't be shy about reaching out to ask for help to make sure you get everything set up just the way it needs to be for your profile.
Perfect. Excellent. Here's a question that just came in. This is interesting. This would certainly qualify as a feature request. Somebody's saying, hey, could there be like an option that shows what airports have runways that are aligned to the current wind forecast? So if you got wind out of the west, somebody's looking for airports along their route that are aligned that way to minimize crosswind. Certainly, even if you think about student pilots, a lot of times they have limitations placed on them by their instructors that they can only have a certain crosswind. So I don't know. That's kind of I've struck it as interesting. So what do you think about that? It's something we can add to the list and look at?
So, I mean, it's a good question. The nice thing about our databases and systems, we build them all in-house. So we have a lot of flexibility in terms of tackling unique or even just questions that hadn't come up before but make a lot of sense. We certainly have all the METAR data. We have the airport runway data. We actually, when you go to find alternates, we certainly qualify airports there. And so it's kind of a similar type of approach in terms of we're looking for airports of a certain runway length that have a specific type of fuel at the airport, et cetera, those kind of features that are there. So I think it'd be along those lines, that it'd be a feature that would allow you to do that. I can say in 10 years, it's not a request we've had before, but we're always interested in those kind of questions.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sorry about putting you on the spot, but if I didn't put you on the spot, who would? So, okay. So let's. I think we're getting close to the end here. We just got a couple minutes left. Let's close this out. One of the other questions in here. This is a good segue out of here. Is, hey, I'm new to all this. This is great. I like what I'm seeing here. Where do I go to get more information? How do I kind of learn? Are there any videos? Is there a user guide? Where do I go to get more information about learning all the different things that iFlightplanner can do?
It's a great one. So one of the best places to start once you hop into the flight planner is to navigate to this help tab. We've got a full user guide that is there. We've got a quick button here to contact AOPA, the Pilot Information Center, the crew there. We are in daily contact with them. They're fantastic. So definitely use them as a resource, not just for iFlightplanner for AOPA, but for kind of all of your flying needs. They're fantastic. But then we also too, if you're looking for some more self-help, we've got iFlightplanner for AOPA how-to videos on YouTube, ranging all the way from the first time you've entered into the planner, walking you through the member setup, through some of the initial features. And like you said, Eric, from the outset, we've been on this journey with AOPA 6 months. There's been a lot of enhancements, a lot of tweaks, and we're gonna continue to do our best to make ourselves and the resources that we all collectively have available to make sure that every member is getting the most out of this resource as part of your member benefit. And the best thing John always says, there's nothing better than having people use your technology. So to be able to have that and offer those resources, we're super stoked about it. we encourage members to reach out to us, and we're looking forward to seeing what we reveal in a few months on the next live stream.
Yeah, so am I. That I do like that suggestion from Michael. I don't know that I've seen that. Something similar maybe, but I don't know if I've seen that exact same thing. And I'm already, sort of the product guy in me is already going, 15 places of what we could do with that. But this is a perfect example of the features that we looked at tonight. These all started out as something like this. This was somebody that said, hey, could it do this? Can it do this? As my boss always says, it's software. We can do anything. Drives me nuts when he says that, but he says it. So, as I would encourage members, if you're using the tool and you come up with ideas like this, toss them out there. Contact our Pilot Information Center, contact iFlightplanner directly. These are the great things that we used to, other than 2020, we would go to the AOPA fly-ins, we would go to Sun and Fun, we would go to Oshkosh, and we would directly interact with AOPA members or just even non-members. And that, for myself, I've been to all of those over the past 10 years. That was just a great wish list creator, where you talk with people and they have different ideas, and your gears start turning. And we would come back from those fly-ins and those air shows with a whole list of things that, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this? And just it just spawns from there. So definitely encourage everyone, reach out to us if you have ideas, think something is, could be done better, or something you haven't seen before. We're certainly willing to take a look at that, and keep improving the product. So with that, we are right at 9 o'clock here in the East Coast. We want to thank everybody for attending. Again, we will definitely be doing one of these in a few more months. For myself, for Andy and John, we hope you have a great rest of the holiday season, and hopefully you get through 2020 unscathed, and we will see you on the next live stream. Take care, everyone.